Radical Radio Collective.
Good afternoon, listeners. You're tuned into 4ZZZ 102.1 FM. This is Eco Radio, Australia's longest running peace and environment radio show.
Apparently,
yeah. We are taking over your middle of the day, middle of the week, endish of the month airwaves. My name is Dave. My pronouns are he, him.
My name's Andy, and my pronouns are he, him.
And I want to start off by acknowledging and paying my respects to the custodians on the country in which we broadcast. We're located in the city of Meanjin on Turrbal, Yagara and Yugapa land. I also want to acknowledge and pay my respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are listening in today. Our radio waves reach Cubby Cubby and Yinambara country in the north, Waka Waka country in the west. In the east, we pay our respects to the Konamuk people, and down south, we reach the Commonwealth, the Gurridyula, Mununjali, Wanjerabara, Yugambeh and Bundjalung countries. Thank you to No Idea for all the great ideas. Thank you for letting us know about drunken bees and the limits of cloning.
Yes, I'll never watch Star Wars in the same sort of vein again.
Yeah, that's right. Although I think in Star Wars they were one batch of clones.
Yeah,
they weren't recloning the
clones.
Yeah, the clones. Yes. I also am a nerd. Well, today on the show, we're going to be talking to Dr. Claire Gronow from the Lock the Gate Alliance. She is the Central Queensland Coordinator, and we're going to be talking about the approved expansion of the Hale Creek coal mine. Then we are going to be talking to Wangan and Jagalingou man Gurridyula about the ongoing fight to protect Doongmabulla Springs and the Brisbane premiere of their film that covers the battle. We talked to Gurridyula quite a bit. He's a friend of the show, and I'm happy to talk to him anytime that something is happening. I want to talk about another show on 4ZZZ. Andy Payne, last Friday, Andy Payne of Paradigm Shift talked to Salih Hudaya about the repression of Uyghurs or other Turkic minorities in the Western Chinese province of Xinjiang, otherwise known as East Turkestan. I think it was a fantastic talk, and I really enjoyed it. I think Andy does a great job, and the oppression of Uyghurs is terrifying. It's absolutely a genocide of Uyghur people happening there. And, I think they should all be freed to live their life as they choose. I have been reading a lot, Andy, recently. I'm reading The Shock Doctrine by Naomi Klein, which is basically about the economic capitalist takeover of the globe through the American CIA empire.
Right.
Like the CIA would fund economists from other countries or undergrad economists from other countries, say in Chile, also in Indonesia, to go to the American schools, places like Berkeley or the Chicago University there, to learn from Friedman.
Yep.
Which is a very well-known, free market economist, and how that pervades throughout the government's positions after the students then go back to their own countries. It's a very interesting book. It goes perfectly with the Jakarta method that I also read, which was about the CIA's involvement in the conservatism of Indonesia. Just fascinating books. But I did read a book a little while ago called They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer. In the book, Milton Mayer is a journalist. He goes to Germany after World War II and just interviews the little people I guess, in Germany. Not SS soldiers, not, people involved in Auschwitz or the gas chambers, just people who were living their lives during the Nazi takeover and subsequent genocide.
Yeah, the workers that were underlying the whole Nazi party.
Yeah,
Yep.
and there's one interview, one quote that really stands out to me. Oh, actually, there's a fair few quotes that stand out to me. It's a really thought-provoking look at fascism after the act. And you can see the side-by-side comparison with what's happening now. It's a fantastic book. You should definitely read it. But the quote is from a German chemical engineer who was an academic at the time, and was told to sign up to the Nazi Party to maintain his job as an academic in that university. And he said, the fact that I was not prepared to resist in 1935 meant that all the thousands, hundreds of thousands like me in Germany were also unprepared, and each one of these hundreds of thousands was, like me, a man of great influence or of great potential influence. Thus the world was lost. And I think what he's saying there, or I guess what he's saying there, is that because I wasn't prepared as an academic with influence around the people that I know to say, that's wrong, I'm not going to do that, and that was just sign up to the Nazi Party, meant that all the other people that were in the same position as him were also not prepared to say, no, that's wrong. And thus, all of the people then were given the, I guess, go-ahead in the Nazi Party to do whatever they wanted.
Yeah,
because no one was willing to stand up against them.
Yeah, there was a fear of persecution as well. You know, what happens if they didn't sign on as well?
Yeah, well, it goes into that in the book, and a lot of the time it was just you lose your job.
Right.
And we see that today. Like, it's difficult to get a job at the best of times, a good paying job that can pay your mortgage during a cost of living crisis.
Yep.
Would we be able or willing to lose our job now to do what was right?
Yeah, that's a difficult question, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, and this isn't even the people like, oh, you have to shoot this many people, you have to apply the gas chambers to this many people. This is just sign up to this thing.
Yep.
There's so many great interviews in that, and one of them, I haven't written it down, but it goes a little something like, fascism took little steps, and all these little steps didn't seem like big steps at the time, but they eventuated into this huge genocide and authoritarian state.
Well, yeah, we're seeing that right now, aren't we, with the rise of the right-wing movements, the extreme far right wings getting more popular and popular, not only here but throughout Europe and North America, and the rise of Trumpism.
Yeah.
So it's those little steps, and people just don't react. They just take it, and then there's another little step. Yeah.
And because it's so sensational, some of these things that people are doing, so like some of it is so stupid and so sensational, and you go in the book that people talk about, I just didn't want to think anymore.
Yep.
And it was like, I was glad that they took this away from me, because I just didn't care.
Right.
They just were so overwhelmed by all of it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, if you have a chance, please go to the library, find this book. It's They Thought They Were Free by Milton Mayer. A fantastic read. You're listening to 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio. On the line, I have Dr Claire Gronow from the Lock the Gate Alliance. Claire, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks.
So let's start talking. We wanted to talk to you about the approved expansion of the Hale Creek mine. You're the Central Queensland coordinator for Lock the Gate. The Hale Creek mine has been called the most methane polluting open-cut coal mine. It's been called a carbon bomb, and that it produces 20% of Australia's coal mine methane, while only producing 1% of its coal, of Australia's coal. What makes the Hale Creek coal mine more destructive than other open-cut coal mines?
Yeah, look, it's just a characteristic of the coal. All coal obviously releases methane when it's mined, but the Hale Creek coal is a bit deeper, and so it's one of the main reasons why it's such a methane belcher. The disappointing thing here is that the extension's only going to extend the life of the mine for about 3 years, and yet it's going to belch out like nearly 70 million tonnes of greenhouse gas emissions when you count up all the different emission sources. So it's really disappointing to see this happening. And there's actually a number of academic studies that indicate that quite possibly the methane emissions from Hale Creek are being underestimated already as well. And obviously it's very difficult to abate methane from an open-cut coal mine. And so that's another big issue. And, Glencore has made no real commitments to do anything very much about the methane, so it's just going to let it rip, basically.
Yeah, the Glencore operators of the Hale Creek mine said the mine, as part of the extension project, had committed to implementing a greenhouse gas abatement plan, undertaking a gas pre-drainage study, as well as conducting ongoing reviews of existing and emerging emission reduction technologies.
Look, you can study the hell out of it. You have to actually do something.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what does that...
We've seen a draft of this plan, and it makes no actual commitment to take any action at all.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what does that actually mean, and why haven't they been doing it already?
Well, simply because there's no real laws at federal or state level that actually require them to do anything. They're able to offset any emissions under the safeguard mechanism with the Australian carbon credit units, even though there's been a number of concerns around the integrity of that scheme. So basically there's nothing to drive them to take any action at all. I mean, quite simply, this coal should just stay in the ground and never be exposed. But they could be doing pre-drainage, for example, but this study that they're committing to doing, they'll start that within 2 years, but, they may already be mining. So it's pretty meaningless fluff.
Yeah, right. The expansion has been referred to the federal government with the Environment Department considering whether it will require an assessment under national environment laws. Why is that Environment Department considering if it will require an assessment? Shouldn't an expansion that clears 600 hectares of koala habitat automatically require an assessment under environment laws?
Absolutely, and I do suspect it will. And indeed, when Glencore referred it, they acknowledged that was a significant impact. So we are expecting it. I don't know why there's been a delay. It's been put on hold again, that decision. We obviously submitted that the project should be looked at for its impacts on water resources as well. But of course, as the listeners are probably well aware, greenhouse gas emissions are not actually a relevant matter under the Federal Environment Protection, Biodiversity and Conservation Act. So the government is not actually required to consider them at all. And mostly they dodge even considering the impact of that contribution to climate change on things like the Great Barrier Reef that are clearly very sensitive to global warming. So the system, is nowhere near strong enough. The opportunity was there when the legislation was reviewed late last year to add a carbon trigger or some other means, but that wasn't taken up. So basically, it's not even a relevant matter.
Okay, so how do we get the government to take that up?
Well, I think that opportunity, unfortunately, came and went. We certainly need people to make more submissions. So, we often have what we call do-gooder emails, where we encourage people to submit. And we always point out in our submissions how significant these greenhouse gas impacts are. And one of the things that I like to engage, and people can do this if they're talking to local members as well and those sorts of things, is actually how climate change is affecting our economy right now and our well-being. And that is a relevant matter. So when a minister is making a decision under the EPBC Act, they do have to consider social and economic impacts and sort of the balance. And so if you look at a mine like Hale Creek, I think if you actually consider the social cost of carbon of these emissions, it probably cancels out any possible economic benefits. So those are the kind of things that people need to be raising all the time with their politicians, and even just, in discussions, because I think many members of the public don't realise that right now the impacts of climate change are hitting us pretty hard.
Yeah, I think there is a canary in a coal mine here, right? Pardon the pun. Which is that in Queensland, koalas are now considered vulnerable or...
endangered.
Endangered, thank you.
Yep.
Have you been to the Hale Creek coal mine site?
Well, yes, we actually have a thermal drone, and last winter we went out and in one night our drone pilot flew over just the southern part of what they're going to clear, and we found 13 koalas in there, which is pretty unprecedented because koalas don't hang out, very close to each other. And I suspect that was partly because they've been driven out by habitat clearing elsewhere. But we found a huge number of koalas, and obviously we reported that. We actually did that the night before submissions were due on the state approval. So we hastily put that together and sent it into the government. And, what we're calling for is actually a moratorium on any clearing of koala habitat, because this is not the only mine. Just a few weeks ago in Middlemount, coal mine got approval. That's another 150-odd hectares of koala habitat. Often greater gliders are in there as well, which are also endangered. And also, things like Olive Downs, that's about 5,000 hectares of koala habitat. And there's information emerging all the time about the importance of the koala population up here, including things like having quite high genetic diversity. And we don't know very much at all about this population. So we really want to see actually a moratorium on any koala habitat clearing until that study is done, a proper cumulative impact study is done. Obviously, Glencore's offering biodiversity offsets, but the same problem as I mentioned with the ACCU scheme, we've got serious questions about whether offsets are effective. I've not found a single academic study that indicates that they are actually effective in even maintaining biodiversity. So we really need to see a moratorium on clearing of habitat for endangered species until this is all sorted out.
Yeah, I was actually quite surprised. I looked at the site on Google Maps and I saw how forested it is around the mine site. We talk about central Queensland and we tend to think about the more drier areas, but it was quite surprising how forested it is.
Yeah, it's actually up against an area called the Clark Connors Range, which does seem to be quite a stronghold. A lot more work is needed. I mean, a recent study found that Peak Downs Highway, which carries all the mine traffic out from Mackay, there's a couple of koalas a week being killed just on a 50-kilometre stretch through that Clark Connors Range.
Right.
So, there's a lot going on, and it's so disappointing to see the government sort of say, well, it's only 3 more years of mining, but hey, go ahead and clear 600 hectares of koala habitat. Just to give you 3 more years of mining on a mine that's incredibly methane intensive. Like, it does not add up.
No, that's absolutely boggling. 3 more years, 600 hectares. Yeah.
It's absolutely mind-boggling that they should be,
It's crazy.
Even the Glencore is considering it, to be honest. It's time that they just went, look, you know what? We've got everything we can out of this site, and there's just no balance in this decision-making at all.
Yep.
So it is really important that we put a lot of pressure on the federal government as it goes through a GPBC assessment process. So if people want to sign up to Lock the Gate, you can just go to our website. We work closely with groups like Queensland Conservation Council and this kind of thing as well, and just watch this space, because whenever there's key decision moments, we'll be sending out requests for our supporters to hammer Minister Watt with lots of emails. So we really appreciate people jumping on and doing that kind of thing.
Yep, of course.
Just so they know how many people out there are really concerned about this.
Yeah, exactly. This is Andy, Claire. I'm just curious about the biodiversity offset requirements that Glencore and the Hale Creek mine have in place. Obviously, it's probably not like for like. Can you expand on that at all?
Well, this is another issue. In their submission, they said they had land to the north of their mine that they own, and they were making a great big deal of how it was already had lots of koalas living in it. And I'm kind of like, well, where's the additionality in that to start with?
Yep.
And, as you would well know, koalas, they're actually not particularly sociable.
Yeah.
So when you force them to move from one area to another, they're likely to get into conflict, particularly the males.
Yep.
They're solitary. They come together to breed, basically, and go off and do their thing again. So there's a lot of questions if it's already got koalas in it, and you're going to force more to move into that habitat, that they're going to end up, in conflict, and also short of food. And obviously climate change itself is affecting the quality of koala food.
Yeah, of course.
As well. So they're getting, kind of hammered from quite a few different points of view.
Yep, so it's going to put the existing koala habitat population under stress.
Yeah. And offsets, there's so many concerns about biodiversity offsets. If you've got another 3-hour program or something, maybe we can get into that. You can get someone who's more expert than me, but there's so many concerns about them. Apart from anything else, how do the koalas displaced from this 600 hectares even get there? And what do they do while they're waiting, for the habitat to be regrown? Do they go to the koala hotel for, have a few drinks at the bar, wait for 10, 15, 20 years? There's just so many sort of concerns about it. So I think it's really time that we took a big step back and stop relying on these sort of things. Because, since these offset policies were introduced, it's a bit over 10 years ago now, we've seen a continued decline in biodiversity on pretty much all counts. So,
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you, Dr Claire Gronow, for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
But it's been a pleasure. If I could just do a plug, if people are interested, Brisbane-based people, we do have a Maganjan Coal and Gas Action Network. So if people do want to come along and maybe get involved in a few other things, there's a meeting on this Friday at 4 p.m, and it's at 35 Boundary Street, South Brisbane. So it's where Lock the Gate and Queensland Conservation Council have an office. So if I can just plug that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a chance for people who feel a bit irate about this. As you can tell, I feel a bit irate about it. To come and do some more practical things if people are keen. So,
fantastic. Thank you very much for joining us, Claire.
Thanks so much for having me, and good luck with the rest of the show.
Cheers.
Thanks.
This is Eco Radio on 4ZZZ. My name is Dave. I'm here with Andy.
Hello.
And on the line now we have Gurridyula. Gurridyula, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, Millie, how we doing?
Good. First off, I know that you're touring the film at the moment, but I'd like to know how Wanganangu has been going.
Yeah, the fires are still burning, brother. It's I think it's day 1671 today.
Amazing.
No, not 1672 actually today. And so the family out there just still holding the camp down. Been pretty floody out there. The waters have only basically just gone down out there for us to be able to get back out there. So
I've been seeing the pictures.
Yeah, it's been quite hectic, but the more it rains, the less they work. And so Adani can't run his trucks when it's raining because it's too muddy. So we turn that into a positive, I guess. So it's
that's a good point.
Always got to look at the bright side, hey.
That's a great silver lining. So the film is Nagana Yarrabine, The Water Protectors. All the tickets have actually sold for the theatre here, but can you tell us what the film is about?
Yeah, so the film's basically about, you know, our resilience against a mining company and the damage that they're doing to our sacred Doongmabulla Springs. And I guess reality at this point in time, it could just be mining company A. You know what I mean? It doesn't even matter who they are. The operations are affecting the groundwater through the dewatering bores. So this is and it's also pushing hydrocarbons into those back into those springs. So it's about, you know, showing that side of it, showing the bit of the scientific side of it with Professor Matthew Currell in there. He's basically one of Australia's leading hydrogeologists. Like, this man knows what he's talking about. You should get him on one of your shows, honestly. I'll get in contact with you.
Yep.
And have a yarn to him, and he'll talk to you about, like, he's a professor at one of the universities down there in Brisbane.
Okay.
Yeah, and so he could probably explain a lot more things to you in technical details, but it's also, to show people that, you know, the legal cases and how we've gotten up to where we are now. So in the video, it's gotten up to, well, we were waiting for the appeal, and so, you know, last week or 2 weeks ago, the courts unanimously said that, that they've decided that Ngana Yarban, because Ngana Yarban is sacred law.
Okay.
And so they that's the name of our group. You know what I mean? That's representing in the courts, and they said that us as the individual people of that group have a human right, and we have a right to have our argument heard about our rights to our sacred springs and our religiousness and culturalness and everything about it. You know what I mean? Like, if this was Temple Mount, if this was Mecca, if this was the Vatican, and a mining company was it would destroy something from there, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, everyone will be up in arms.
Yeah.
But when it comes to our most holiest site, which is an ancient spring, everyone just goes, oh, well, you know, it's just nature. But it's more than just nature. It's the connection not only just to us, but that place is like the source of life, like 40, 50,000 years ago when the waters were up.
Yeah.
And the waters were up all the way up to the range. And so those springs supported life till those waters went down and they could all walk back out to the shorelines. And so this is some of the only drinking water out of the, like, on the range here going back. So it's a supporter of life, not just for my particular mob, but like in the story of all people that lived out to the coast.
Yeah, and you do have some pretty special ecosystem there. You've got the waxy cabbage palm trees.
Yep. And so that gives us our songline connection then to Palm Valley in the Northern Territory. Have you seen that place in Palm Valley where they've got all the big palm trees there?
Is that the one where it has stories going back 3,000 years that were unbroken?
So 30,000 years, they can trace it through the palm's DNA, is they've been walked from Latakia 30,000 years ago.
Latakia being
to
Darwin
Palm
now.
Valley.
Oh.
And then from Palm Valley, it got spread out, I think, when the formation of the desert. And so one came out to where we are, one went up to Mataranka. There's about 16 different species in across Australia that's all related to the Murray that is in the centre. So the one in Mataranka, they've traced the genetics on that and said that they diverged 15,000 years ago. So that coincides with the formation of the desert. You know, everything's getting scarce in the desert. They're like, quick, we need to take these seeds out and spread them because, one, we can use them for ropes. We can eat the heads of them, so they're very versatile. They can use them for shelter.
It's also a good way to spot where the spring is because they're so tall.
That's it, and they're at all the springs, Buzz. And so it's also at the spot where all the rainbow serpent goes. You go to Mataranka and you go to Rainbow Springs there, and then you see all those trees, and then you go to Doongmabulla and you see the trees, and you're like, somehow these are connected.
Yeah.
And it's connected through that old songline, which is the rainbow serpent, which is springs that track across the whole continent.
Yeah.
And so it's an important part of the story, you know what I mean? And look, we're still there. We're in the area where his 5-year plan is. So I've played a protracted war, and I've waited him out to 5 years. Now we've got a court decision where 3 judges say that we have human rights. So the only way for the state to challenge that is to go to the High Court. But I think the federal government stopped the state from appealing it so it wouldn't leak out into the federal and become a precedent across the whole country. So they contained it in Queensland, and they know that they've lost. They've lost because the judges have already said, well, we can't limit their rights, because the Human Rights Commissioner came into the courts and grilled the Attorney General's lawyers, grilled the state and grilled the judges, and said this act is for every government body to fall in line and not limit these rights.
Yeah,
and so
it was a bit of a complicated thing for non-legal people to understand. I know I struggle. But basically, we have talked about this before, that you were asserting your rights to protect Doongmabulla Springs, and the government said, no, you can't lodge this case to protect Doongmabulla Springs.
Yeah, that we don't have a right, that we don't have a standing to even launch a complaint.
And that's been knocked back now.
But that's been knocked back.
Yeah.
Because the judges have come back with their comments. In those comments are like they've already ceded to the fact that they can't limit our rights. So it's already, they already know that the moment that, because we're going to ask for an on-country hearing when it comes to trial, and I'm going to take them out to Doongmabulla Springs. I'm going to make them wash themselves in that river, in that little creek, in that little spring where the big rock is, and I'm going to say to them that you're now the first person that has touched this water since forever and since never, because it's 500,000 plus year old water, meaning it has no molecules of any humans in there. So you're the first one to start the river dreaming, the BioBlitz. How it starts its life cycle, goes down through the river system and then out to the ocean. Can't say the other one because I might get locked up in Queensland.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the river cycle.
Yeah, it's a powerful position.
Yeah, and we're saying to them, now you have a responsibility then, like I just said to the land, when I said to the land court with Clive Palmer's case, I said, you have a responsibility like I have a responsibility now. That I've brought you into my world and you have accepted that offer and acceptance, you now have a responsibility to help protect this place. And whether they take that on board or not, it dives deep into their soul. And so the problem they're doing is they're allowing the virus, aka me, I'm a good virus though, you know what I mean, to infect the system. And the more that I dive deeper down into it, the more that it just infects the whole system. And so then, because they weren't prepared for this whole thing, you know, that just the mere fact of us living there for like 4.5 years, man, like almost 5 years soon, is proof in the pudding that, like, well, according to the doctrine of laches and acquiescence, they've acquiesced by silence, and everybody, state and the mining company, has led us to believe that it's ours again. So you lose. You know, it's just like, well, I'm still waiting, man. I'm waiting for a court case because I would love to see them gamble and lose.
Yeah.
Because the judge can't rule against me because all I'm doing is just living, and all they want to do is remove me for money.
Yeah. It is a huge achievement. You have the 5-year celebration coming up. How can you? What have you got planned for Wattle for the 5-year celebration?
Yeah, so we're gonna have we'll have a bit of see if we can do a bit of a river tour this year. Go down to the river, hopefully.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have a whole heap of workshops and stuff like that. And we'll have a bit of music. I've got a friend that's coming up with a whole big stage equipment, big speakers and amplifiers and stuff. So, but it'll all be spread out. So, you know, the stage will basically be like 4 Ks away from the camping area. So, so we can have like an area that's separate for because it's going to be family friendly and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Have workshops going and, you know, have some conferences with other First Nations people that come out and, you know, bounce and relay, like what you know, how can we help, or how can we, you know, cement something like this in other places, and, you know, and other people just, they can be a part of Wattle, you know what I mean? And that's what it's all about, like being a part of a community, you know. This country has created a place where people don't feel like there's no community. They live next door to every single person in their street that they don't even know. Or they live in an apartment complex with a whole group of people that they don't even know. And so it's like, well, come be a part of a community, you know. Come be a part of something that, you know, we're welcoming of everybody, you know, because it's people learn how to better help save country, you know what I mean? Giving back to nature more than they're taken.
Yeah, and it is a great experience. I was lucky enough to go within the 2 years, or maybe within the first year, and yeah, just a fantastic ceremony to be a part of.
Yeah, like it's everybody that comes, you know what I mean, is avid supporters afterward because they can see the genuineness in it. They can see what's at stake, and they can see how they are a part of something that is, you know, monumental in fighting an industry that they thought that was just impossible to fight. And so, you know, everyone that comes is a part of it, and everybody that supports it, even if they haven't come and they've just helped supported us, they're all a part of it too once this mining company dives down.
Yeah.
Because once they dive down, then they're going to have to shut those pumps off. When they shut the pumps off, then the water will have to stabilise, and then at least we can try and fix it. And so, you know, hopefully, you know, I'm not going anywhere. Like they've created a jungle that's my home now, and I wouldn't live anywhere else.
Yeah,
you know, I went to Melbourne, I went to Sydney, I went to Hobart, and none of those places feel like home. None of those hotel rooms give me any joy. I love waking up to the digger, the Willy Wagtail, doing his little dance on the top of my gunya tent. You know, that's what brings me joy in my life than living in a concrete jungle. And so it's just like, well, they've created that in me now, and I can't shake it. And that's why Wattle will always live, man. It'll always be there. and hopefully, we just got 3 new little possum babies, plus our little kangaroo Joey as well.
Yeah, I see that you're taking care of the animals as well, and it's so nice.
We're creating something called white ash in the Gurridyula area at the back from the front fire, and it's called white ash, Wattle Indigenous Totemic Animal Safe Haven. So we put up a thing so no cats and stuff can get in, and we just have all these like little possums and little kangaroos and stuff like that, little bettongs, and just pick them all up from the sides of the road, and just raise them and live like Mowgli from the Jungle Book, you know what I mean? That's future goals. Well,
it's been fantastic to talk to you again, Gurridyula. I always enjoy these conversations.
Cheers, brother. No, we're still going, you know what I mean? It's not stagnant. Nothing's stagnant.
No.
We just got a 2-bedroom expander home coming soon. We've just got to wait till the waters dry out, the roads dry out.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a house out there, for my old man to just live permanently in there. And, so we've got some permanent shelter. It's no longer just a tent camp. And we'll actually have a house out there challenging the whole system. And it's like, well, do something, bruh.
Yeah, a tent camp can be a bit difficult for the old bodies.
That's it, It's those elders, they're not. I don't have to force them. Why should we have to force them to go into a tent? You know what I mean? When one, it's too hard to get around uneven surfaces and stuff at night time. So.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Cheers, brother.
Thanks very much, Gurridyula. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to play Gurridyula's song Under the Stars. You're listening to 4ZZZ. This is Eco Radio.
They tried to bury me. They didn't realise I was a seed.
You're listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future.
You are listening to Eco Radio, the radio of the future. Thank you, small child. And, we're back. This is Eco Radio. We just heard then from Gurridyula with Under the Stars. We've been talking to Gurridyula and Dr Claire Gronow. All about things actually happening in central Queensland.
Yep, a hotbed of activity up there.
Yeah. If you like what we do here on 4ZZZ, or even if you like specifically what we do here on Eco Radio, you can be like Marky, who texted in. He said he's going to check the book out that we talked about earlier, but also big thanks for the show. Other people texted in. Marco texted in, desecration of sacred lands and waters. That just seems to be par for the course for Queensland and big government. If you like what we do, you can be like those texter-innerers. You can join the family on 4ZZZ.org.au/support. We run a subscription model here at 4ZZZ, which is how we keep the community on air.
And the lights on as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for as little as $80 for a full subscription, or you could go concession or pets. Pets and under 18s are $25. Concession is $40. Full subscription is $80. But a passionate subscriber, which gets a tote and T-shirt, is $140. And then, we can talk about all the things that are happening in our community. We got a text in from Celestica that said that Bill on Workers' Power yesterday was talking about a koala cull. And this is the first I've actually heard about it. But there seems to be a Victorian wildlife groups are taking a Victorian court government to court over a mass helicopter koala cull. which, I'll have to look into more because it just seems totally at odds with what we should be doing.
Yes, exactly. Not sure what the rationale is behind that. I haven't heard of it either. So
No.
it'd be interesting to see what the background of that is.
Yeah, so thank you, Celestica, for bringing that to our attention. This is what community is good at. It's about telling everyone what's going on, which is exactly what I like to do on the Bushcare Roundup. And it goes a little something like this.
It's a Bushcare Roundup. They've been pulling out weeds and then they put in trees. It's the Bushcare Roundup.
All right, we're going to have to do a speed run of the Bushcare Roundup. Andy, are you ready?
Oh, I think I am.
Okay, starting on Thursday the 26th, 7:30, you can go to Save Ormiston College, Koalas. That's at Delancey Street in Ormiston.
On Friday the 27th from 7 p.m. to 8:30 is the Springbrook Weedbusters spotlighting up at Tallanbana Picnic Ground, Springbrook.
Saturday at 8 a.m. you can go to the Wattle Creek Community Planning, that's at the Gap. At 9 o'clock you can go to the Butterfly Count at Pooh Corner, that's in Wacol. And at midday you can go to the Wildlife Queensland Plan Our Local BioBlitz, that's at Thika at Chapel Hill.
On Sunday, after all that, you can at 7 to 9 at Cicada Park, Bushcare Working Bee, 69 Ironbark Road, Chapel Hill. 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning, Butterfly Bushcare at the Hilltops, Sir Samuel Griffith Drive, Mount Cootha, on the Honey Eater Reservoir Trail. And also 8:30 to 10:30, linking Springbrook and Lamington National Parks tree planting, and that's at 1827 Narang Wollumbar Road, Numbaa Valley. And then 3:30 to 5:30 at DeSoto Place, Bushcare Working Group Working Bee, and that's at 9 DeSoto Place, Forest Lake.
And Tuesday the 31st at 3 o'clock you can go to UQ Lakes BioBlitz, that's in St Lucia. Thank you so much for listening in today. Stick around for the feedback loop with Imogen and Sophie.
Radical Radio Collective.
4ZZZ.